I think there's a lot of healing that comes from shared spaces. I've honestly never met another Native woman who hasn't disclosed some sort of violence that they've experienced in their lives. And I do think that there's a sisterhood that kind of runs through these spaces, and it's not tethered necessarily to the violence that you experience, but more tethered to the strength and the response of our communities. But it can be hard. It can also be triggering to listen to things, right? And I think that sometimes we'll always remember to take care of ourselves. So I guess that has been something that I have noticed for myself at least. But yeah, I always feel very empowered being around other Native women. It's just like it's a strong sisterhood of people. We may not even know each other, to be honest with you. Half of us don't, but it's good to be in space with our family. The Fifth Circuit decided that they would declare that the Lautenberg Amendment was unconstitutional. And the Lautenberg Amendment is really important. What it does is it keeps firearms and ammo out of the hands of individuals that shouldn't have them, right? It's just, and honestly, it's common sense gun control. You don't want domestic violence, convicts to have a gun, because guns, even just the presence of a gun increases the chance that a survivor will be killed by 500%. And you don't want people who have qualifying orders of protection against them to have firearms, because oftentimes even initiating a court process really amps up a person's experience of DV, and to just be like, oh, it's fine for this individual to have a gun at that point in time, to me is like unfathomable. So that's a Supreme Court case that's going up. And I think that's really important to talk about. The CDC released some data a couple of years ago that said, and I could be wrong on the percentages, but I want to say it said that American Indians and Alaska Natives experience homicide at higher rates than their counterparts. I think it was 49% of those women were killed via a partner, and that of the women that were killed via their partner, 38% of them were killed via a gun. So, to me, it's like, why would you want individuals who should not have access to these types of weapons? Why would you want them to have it? Most people don't even know in the United States that your individual right to own a firearm, your right, was only solidified by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2008. So yeah, it's just become such I think a culture issue for America. And in America, we obviously have a mass shooting issue as well, via schools, public spaces, etc. And the vast majority of the individuals that commit mass shootings are individuals with family violence or DV or protection orders against them. They shouldn't have access to these weapons. It's a public safety issue for everybody. So I don't, that case to me is another one I think everybody is going to have to be really careful about. But again, who knows? And that's not an Indian country specific issue. That's an everybody issue. But
it resonates more deeply.
It does, and this is maybe getting like a little bit too in the weeds, but the way that that it works here is that the DOJ and FBI operates like what's called NCIC. So it's just a database, right? And it's the purpose of it is for information sharing amongst law enforcement officers, and it is definitely the gold standard of doing so. And tribes historically had not had access to the database. So you either had to try and work with your state to get them to enter in your convictions or your orders or anything else that needed to in the database, missing persons reports, etc. I think there's 14 indexes within it. Or you just didn't do it at all, which meant that if a tribal court was entering something, then it just didn't get entered into anything. So if that person left the jurisdiction or if they went to buy a firearm elsewhere, they were never going to be, it wouldn't catch them. The background check would not catch that person. And so there was, as a part of the Tribal Law and Order Act, there was a program that was funded to get tribes kiosks for this database so that they could start entering it themselves. But, I think it's still relatively limited in terms of how many tribes we have versus how many tribes have access to it. So that's just, to me, I'm like, again, why, right? Why can't tribes have these things? And Department of Justice, in particular, OTJ has been super, obviously amazing. That's one of the things that I think someone from their office obviously headed up. But Just to think that a state would be like,
Right.
we're not going to enter in a tribal court's order. It's, what's the implication there? That it's inferior, or that it's, I mean, I'm an attorney as well, and the vast majority of judges that I know in Indian country are also attorneys. And I think we take a lot of time with our cases and making sure that we're doing the right thing. So